The millionaire screamed at his secretary, but her response left everyone in shock forever. The office was a giant glass cage perched on the top floor of a shimmering skyscraper, reflecting the vibrant pulse of the city below. The tension crackled like static electricity as Raymond Tisdale, the self-made millionaire, known for his biting sarcasm and ruthless business tactics, roared at his secretary. "How could you mess this up, Rachel?" His face was a storm cloud, veins pulsating against his pale skin. People outside paused, glancing up with a mix of fear and curiosity. Whispers rippled through the floor, like the suspense before a roller coaster drop. What did she do? Rachel stood rooted, eyes wide, her heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. There was something utterly magnetic about her demeanor. It was like she was stalemated against a force of nature. Everyone expected her to cower, to wither under his scathing glare. But what came next would make jaws drop. "I didn't mess up, Raymond." "You did." The air thickened, and silence fell. Her words echoed like gunshots through the tense atmosphere. Around them, co-workers exchanged glances, stunned. This wasn't just any office spat, it felt like the reckoning of the ages. Yesterday's coffee still stained the conference room table, but nothing compared to the urgency of the moment. Rachel's icy blue eyes never wavered, reflecting a hidden strength that startled everyone, a calm defiance that hung heavy in the air. Raymond's expression morphed from rage to pure disbelief. "You dare speak to me like that?" The words thundered, carrying the weight of fat cats and billions of dollars, yet somehow, deep down, a sense of vulnerability flickered behind his fierce exterior. The crowd leaned in, breath held, sensing that something monumental was about to unfold. Now, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tension built again, Rachel took a step closer, her voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of emotion. "You need me, Ray. Or did you forget who made your last deal happen?" The employees were reeling. Had she just put the man-child in his place? Suddenly, there was an electric thrill in the room. People leaned, mouths agape. The walls seemed to vibrate with the disbelief of it all, but before anyone could exhale, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the office into a brief, eerie darkness. Gasps filled the space like a wave. When the lights blinked back on, Rachel was still standing defiantly, but Raymond was now pale as a ghost, eyes darting to his laptop. "This isn't over," he hissed, but the fear crackled in the air like a live wire. There were murmurs in the crowd, fragmented thoughts of doubt and concern. What had just happened? What did it mean? And then, in a twist so sudden even the universe seemed to hold its breath, an email notification popped up on Raymond's screen, displaying a familiar name that sent chills through him. An old associate, someone thought lost or forgotten. What could it possibly lead to? With the tension still hanging like a heavy fog, the chapter closed on a cliffhanger, leaving everyone wondering, was this the beginning of Rachel's remarkable rise, or the unfolding of a darker scheme that would consume them all? The moment hung in the air, thick with unease, as Raymond stared at the email on his screen. His hands trembled, the sharp click of the mouse feeling like the beat of a funeral march. "We need to talk," it read, followed by an unsettling confirmation that jolted his chest. A meeting marked for tomorrow at 3. No details, just a name he thought he could bury, Victor Crane. The whispers in the office morphed into an anxious current, dragging every employee into a vortex of dread. They were witnessing an escalation neither had anticipated. Rachel remained glaring at Raymond, her blue eyes fierce and unyielding. "Who is it?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the suffocating silence. Raymond clenched his fists, breaking his gaze from the monitor as if returning from a dark realm. Someone I thought I'd never hear from again, he whispered, fury twisting like a knife in his gut. Fear mixed with regret as images of the past crashed into him like a runaway train. Memories of betrayal, of boardroom bloodshed, flash Fosters. Rachel sensed the shift, it was palpable. This was no petty retaliation anymore, this was a game changer. You need to tell me everything, she pressed, taking slow steps towards him, her voice carrying a weight that commanded attention. The room pulsed with anticipation, the weight of unspoken truths hovering. For a brief moment, Raymond's hardened expression cracked, revealing the young man who once had the world at his feet, only to be swallowed by greed. Victor, he was once my partner. He had a vision and then. Rachel pushed, her tone edging on urgency. And then, I betrayed him, Raymond admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Gasps echoed from the corners of the office, the shockwaves ricocheting against the glass walls. Those around them felt the impact of the words like arrows shot through the air, piercing through the polished veneer of their corporate lives. Betrayal. A word heavy with implications. When I made that deal, I thought I'd secured my future, but I destroyed his. If he's reaching out, it's not for good reasons. The tremor in his voice was unmistakable, fraying at the edges of his bravado. Rachel's expression shifted, sympathy clashed with her own ambitions. Are you saying he's a threat? Her mind raced through the possibilities. Could this be the reason for the email? Could Raymond's past come back to obliterate their futures? Yes, he replied, voice steely, but the flicker of vulnerability lingered. And if I don't handle this right, it could ruin everything. Rachel's pulse quickened. She was in deeper than she anticipated. But instead of fear, a strange thrill coursed through her veins. The stakes were higher than ever. She walked into this confrontation to claim her power, but now, she saw a path strewn with shadows. Then we need a plan, she declared, unflinching. And it has to start right now. In the hushed tension, eyes darted, breaths held. The winds of change had begun to sweep through the skyscraper. Before any strategy could solidify, the lights flickered again, strobing ominously, a portent of chaos to come. The screens around them glitched, and another email notification flashed on Raymond's laptop. It's Crane. An employee blurted out, panicking. Rachel and Raymond exchanged a look, one thick with unspoken fear and determination. What more did Victor Crane want? The answer hit them like a brick. They were walking right into a trap. The pulse of the city outside continued, oblivious to the brewing storm within those glass walls. With adrenaline coursing through her, Rachel took a deep breath, the enormity of their moment marking a turning point. Whatever was coming next, it was going to change everything, and in the heart of that electric tension, Rachel knew one thing: they were in a deadly game now, and every move could either save them or seal their fate. Would they rise together or fall apart? In the grand scheme, who was really the pawn? The next email would reveal everything. The notification pinged again, slicing through the atmosphere like a blade. Raymond's heart raced, a drumbeat thrumming in his ears. He barely blinked as he opened the email, the urgency mounting like a tidal wave about to crash. Subject: tomorrow's meeting. You know what you owe me. The word seared into his brain. What I owe him? Raymond muttered, confusion and dread coiling together in his stomach. The implications twisted around him like a noose. Behind the lines, he could almost feel Crane's icy fingers tightening around his throat. Rachel leaned in closer, her breath warm against his neck, a surprising comfort in the overwhelming chaos. What do we do now? She whispered, her voice steady despite the panic bubbling beneath the surface. She had already taken a step into this fray, there was no turning back. We prepare, Raymond replied, gripping the desk so hard his knuckles turned white. They couldn't show weakness. Not now. But we play it smart. Victor is unpredictable, he thrives on chaos. If we give him what he wants, we risk losing everything. Before Rachel could respond, the power flickered once more, casting eerie shadows across their faces. A sudden chill seemed to seep through the walls. Their co-workers exchanged anxious glances, aware of the palpable tension but oblivious to the true nature of the danger looming over them. The fluorescent lights buzzed, resuming their rhythmic flicker as the office resumed its everyday tone. Conversations resumed, punctuated by the clacky sound of keyboards, but their world had spiraled into a realm of shadows. "Let us gather some intel," Rachel suggested, her confidence sharpening like a knife. "We need to understand his game before the meeting. Do you still have contacts in his circle?" Raymond nodded. "I can reach out to a few people. They might know where his head is at." The words felt heavy. He was flinging open the door to his past, inviting in ghosts he thought he'd left behind. But if he wanted to protect everything he'd built, he needed to be willing to confront those specters. "Good. While you do that, I'll start digging through our files," she offered. "There must be something we can use against him. Something that'll give us the upper hand." Raymond felt a spark of hope igniting within the tension. "If we play this right, we can turn the tables." Crane 1T see it coming. But as he glanced back at the screen, dread washed over him anew. Victor wasn't a man to underestimate. There was a reason he had risen and fallen like the tides. He was as ruthless as they came. Just as they prepared to take action, a sudden crash echoed from somewhere deep within the office, followed by a panicked shout. The employees scattered, eyes wide, searching for the source of the disturbance. "Stay focused," Raymond barked, his authority instinctively taking command, but inside, his heart raced at the unknown. He grabbed Rachel's arm, leading her toward the exit, adrenaline spiking. This could be a distraction or worse. As they neared the door, another email alert dinged on Raymond's laptop. His gut twisted, and he turned back, desperation clawing at him. "What now?" Rachel glanced over his shoulder, recognition washing over her face. "It's another message from Crane." One breath. Two. Then, he opened it. "Tomorrow will be a reckoning. I know your secrets. You can't hide from me, Raymond." The weight of those words sunk in like molten lead. It was a warning. A threat. The calculated move of a man who wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. "Shit!" Raymond's voice dropped to a murmur, shock pouring into every fiber of his being. "We're not just meeting. He's coming for blood." Rachel squeezed his arm tightly, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and resolve. "Then we better be ready to fight." But as they stepped out, the echoes of chaos rang behind them, filling the air with uncertainty. Would they be able to outsmart Victor, or was this the beginning of their end? And in those moments, the looming threat of the meeting hung like a dark cloud, promising storms on the horizon. Would there be safety in their plans, or would the ground beneath them start to crumble? Time was ticking. The showdown was less than 24 hours away. The air outside the office was thick with an uneasy stillness as Raymond and Rachel stumbled into the dimly lit hallway. The chaos inside had transformed into a distant, echoes of confusion and fear. Raymond's heart thrummed wildly in his chest, the severity of their situation tightened like a vice. "How do you want to handle this?" Rachel asked, her voice shaky but firm, clinging to courage like a lifeline. "We meet with my contacts. We need details, anything that can shed light on Crane's next move. Then, we need to get our hands on those files," Raymond said, the urgency igniting a fire within him. He had to put aside the dread, channeling it into action. As they took long strides towards the service exit, every shadow felt menacing, every flicker of light a harbinger of danger. Raymond had always relished this adrenaline, but now, it clawed at him from within. "Victor thrives on mind games. We can't give him any advantage," Rachel reminded him, glancing around nervously. It felt as if the walls themselves were listening. I know," he replied, the tingling of anxiety creeping back in. "But if we can predict his moves." Rachel's phone beeped, and both of them jumped. "It's Patrick," she said, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "He says he found something." Your old contact at Crane's firm? Raymond asked, narrowing his eyes. Rachel nodded, her expression a mix of surprise and apprehension. He says he has intel on Crane's plans for tomorrow. Let us go, he urged, leading her towards the nearest exit, ignoring the nagging worry about opening old wounds. Every step felt like stepping into unknown territory, where ghosts lay in wait, eager to resurface. Once outside, they slipped into a nearby cafe, a bustling hub, offering a veneer of normalcy. But Raymond felt anything but calm. He spotted Patrick fiddling with his phone at the corner table, eyes darting over the unsuspecting crowd. The moment he spotted Raymond and Rachel, he gestured them to join him, clearly anxious. What is going on? Raymond asked, trying to maintain a facade of composure as they squeezed into the tight space. Patrick wasted no time. I overheard something while making my rounds. There's big talk about Crane and some deal going down tomorrow. He leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. He's not just coming for blood. He's looking for something more, something that could ruin you for good, Raymond. Raymond's instinctual alarm bells rang louder. What does that mean? I couldn't get specifics, but it involves someone you know, Patrick continued, his gaze flicking nervously at patrons who seemed oblivious to their gathering storm. Something hidden, something you want to keep buried. A chill washed over Raymond as suspicion tightened its grip. Who? I don't know. Patrick exclaimed, running a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling to the surface. But whatever it is, it's linked to you, and if he finds it, it's game over. Great, Raymond muttered, tapping his fingers on the table, a growing urgency compelling him to act. We need to focus. The meeting is tomorrow. If Crane is maniacally obsessed with digging through my past, then we're running out of time. Then we push back, Rachel declared, determination sparking in her eyes. We can't let him control this narrative. Patrick looked at them, disbelief creeping into his features. You really think that's enough? We're talking about a man who thrives in the shadows. Raymond clenched his fists, battling against a swell of fear. I'll face him. I won't let him take anything else from me. We'll find a way. Just then, a faint sound caught Raymond's ear. A low, sinister chuckle floated through the cafe, making the hairs on his neck stand on end. He turned, scanning the faces around him until his gaze caught a shadowy figure slipping out the door. Did you hear that? He whispered, his skin crawling as uncertainty seeped back into the moment. Rachel's eyes widened, and Patrick paled. Who was that? Suddenly, Raymond understood, the game had escalated. Run, he said, pushing Rachel forward. They dashed for the exit, the weight of the world pressing down on them as the atmosphere thickened. Nothing felt certain anymore. One thought screamed in his mind as they pushed onto the street: what had they just unleashed? And just like that, the stakes transformed into a deadly dance, one where survival depended on who could see the next move first. But as they hurried, the question lingered like a gunshot in the air: had they already lost? The streets outside the cafe were alive with urban noise, but Raymond barely registered it. His mind was racing, every heartbeat pounding out a frantic rhythm. Adrenaline coursed through him as he pulled Rachel into a narrow alley, the shadows cloaking their movements. The shadowy figure was fresh in his thoughts. Whoever that person was, they knew them. Rachel's breath came fast, panic bleeding into her voice. What do we do now, Raymond? We can't just hide here forever. Let me think, he muttered, his mind grappling with the chaos unfurling around him. They peered cautiously from the alley, scanning the street. It was a game of patience now, every passerby could be a potential threat or a lost ally. Just a few feet away, the figure had vanished, but that chilling chuckle hung in the air like a noose tightening around them. What if it was Crane? Rachel whispered, her eyes darting with fear. What if he's already looking for us? A knot tightened in Raymond's chest. It doesn't matter. We still have time. We have to find out what Patrick knows, and we need to uncover what Crane is up to. There's no room for mistakes now. Rachel nodded slowly, but he could see her resolve wavering. I don't like this, she admitted, her voice quivering. We can't show weakness, he said, a growing fire igniting his determination. We push back, remember. We're not just going to wait for him to strike. The seconds dragged on like hours as they slipped back onto the main street, moving swiftly yet cautiously. They needed more information. Every corner turned felt heavy with dread, each shadow possibly holding Crane's lurking henchmen. The fight or flight response kicked in again, charging through Raymond. They needed to gather allies and piece together what Crane was really after. As they crossed into a lesser-known district, Raymond spotted an old acquaintance, someone who thrived in the gray areas of legality. Leo. Leo was leaning against a brick wall, his leather jacket glinting under the scattered streetlights. He was a fox in a world of hounds, sharp and always a step ahead. Raymond. Leo called, smirking. What trouble have you dragged your pretty friend into this time? Raymond's heart sank at the casual disdain. We need intel. Crane is on to us, and it's worse than we thought. Leo's grin faded. What did you dig up? Someone from his team mentioned a deal happening tomorrow, a deal tied to something of mine. Sounds risky. Leo eyed Rachel, the glint in his eyes sharpening. You're sure you want to dive in this deep? Tell me what you know, Raymond pressed, desperation lining his words. Leo hesitated, his mind working over something. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. All right, he finally said, glancing around as if the walls had ears. Their essay package, something that Crane believes is worth a hell of a lot more than anyone wants to admit. It's tied to you. But what is it? Rachel asked, now drawn into their conversation. Leo stepped closer, lowering his voice. It's a document, something you thought was buried with the past. It's the key to all of this, a power move that could destroy lives. Raymond felt a storm brewing inside him. What lives? Your life, Rachel's life. He paused, gauging their reactions. And anyone else who gets caught in the crossfire. Raymond's stomach nodded. Could it be related to the old scandals he'd buried? The stakes were rising like flames, licking at their heels. In that moment, a rustle behind them made Raymond whirl around. He spotted two men in dark coats, their expressions masked with intent. The alleyways were closing in, like a trap springing shut. Run! He yelled again, pushing Rachel ahead of him. Fear tore through them both like a live current. They darted deeper into the maze of streets, heartbeats thundering like war drums. As they turned a corner, scrunched against the cool, rough brick wall, Raymond felt the weight of their ticking clock. The past was creeping back into their lives, dragging chains of uncertainty along with it. Where do we go? Rachel gasped, panting heavily, eyes wide in terror. We have to regroup and plan. We'll figure it out. He promised, but doubts fluttered like butterflies, a bad omen. What if they were already too late? Just then, a phone buzzed in Raymond's pocket, the shrill sound cutting through the tension. He pulled it out, revealing a name that sent dread coursing through him, Victor Crane. It's him, he muttered, the world narrowing to a singular focus. We're running out of options. With one final glance back at the narrowing alley, he pressed answer. The voice on the other line dripped with chilling confidence. You're playing a dangerous game, Raymond. Are you sure you know the rules? The game had only just begun. Raymond's heart raced as Crane's voice slithered through the phone, its menace wrapping around him like a noose. I don't play games with amateurs, Crane continued, a twisted satisfaction lurking behind his words. You're about to learn what the stakes really are. Fear rippled through him. The man had a sinister way of turning every encounter into a threat. What do you want from us? Raymond shot back, attempting to keep his voice steady despite the shaking in his legs. Your life is intertwined with things you don't fully grasp, Raymond. If you want her to stay safe, you'll bring me that document by tomorrow night. The line went dead, leaving Raymond clutching the phone like a lifeline, his breath catching in his throat. What did he say? Rachel asked, her face pale, stricken by the urgency in Raymond's demeanor. He wants the document or else. Or else what? Her voice wavered, a mix of dread and defiance. Or else we might not make it out of this alive. Raymond's stomach churned as he looked down the alleyway. Every shadow felt like a lurking predator, every gust of wind whispered threats of lurking danger. We can't trust him for a second. Rachel turned to him, determination etching itself on her features. Then we fight back. We don't back down. We need to find that package first. Right, he agreed, trying to ignite the spark of bravery they both need. Leo mentioned a location, an old warehouse. If Crane's team is meeting there, that's where we go. They hurried down the street, weaving through the dwindling crowd, every footstep echoing like a drumbeat. Raymond could hear his own heartbeat thrumming in his ears, a constant reminder of how much they had at stake. Rachel walked beside him, her resolve hardening with each step, yet he could see the flickering candle of fear in her eyes. Do you think we can really trust Leo? Rachel asked suddenly, her voice threading through the haze of adrenaline. Not fully, Raymond admitted. But he's our best shot. We need intel and he's good at getting it. They approached the warehouse, a hulking shadow against the dimming sky, the air thick with uncertainty. He felt it in his bones, the weight of an impending confrontation hung over them like a storm cloud ready to burst. As they edged closer, the sound of muffled voices reached their ears. Raymond pressed himself against the wall, nodding for Rachel to do the same. They peered through a cracked window, and what they saw made his heart drop. Men in suits, all gathered around a table piled with documents, cash, and a single glowing device that looked like a hard drive. The stakes were higher than he imagined. Above them, the fluorescent lights flickered, illuminating Crane as he loomed with sinister authority, barking orders like a rabid dog. It's worth everything to me. Crane sneered, pointing menacingly at one of his men. If Raymond gets in the way, eliminate him. A cold chill slithered down Raymond's spine. He shared a look with Rachel, panic etched deep in her features. We can't just barge in, she whispered harshly. What if they're armed? I know. We need a plan. The fate of their lives hinged on the next move. Part of him was screaming for retreat, for safety, but they had come too far to back down now. As they crouched there, plotting their next steps, an unexpected sound broke through the tension, an engine revving harshly, tires screeching. It echoed through the street, sharp and cutting. Suddenly, a black SUV came barreling around the corner, skidding to a stop outside the warehouse. A group of men, dressed in dark gear, spilled out, weapons drawn, urgency etched into their faces. Raymond's instincts kicked in. Stay low. He hissed, gripping Rachel's arm as they both ducked deeper into the shadows of the alleyway. What's happening? She whispered, her voice tight with panic. It looks like we're not the only ones who want what's inside, Raymond replied, trying to catch his breath, but as they watched, horror dawned on him. A carefully orchestrated chaos was unfolding. The men with weapons bustled toward the warehouse entrance, just as Crane's team began to react. Now's our chance. He growled under his breath, adrenaline pouring through him like a jolt of electricity. This could be the moment they needed to strike. They could slip in unnoticed in the chaos. Just as they prepared to move, a voice rang out loud, commanding, dangerously close. Get inside. Secure the package. Raymond's heart raced. Were they truly ready to dive headfirst into this? They had to take the risk, but would they find their salvation or their doom when they stepped through that door? He squeezed Rachel's hand, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. Are you with me? As she nodded, steeling herself, he felt a surge of hope alongside the stirring dread. On three, he said, feeling the world around them shrink down to the moment. 1, 2, 3. They bolted towards the warehouse, breathless, unstoppable, careening headfirst into the fray. Shadows danced with danger, but now they were chasing fate. But when they pushed through the door, the scene inside was worse than they imagined. A betrayal awaited, one they were not ready for, because sometimes allies turn to enemies and sometimes the past claws its way back to haunt you. And in the midst of the chaos, a chilling realization struck him: the game was rigged. Who would survive when the dust finally settled? The interior of the warehouse was a battlefield, a cacophony of roars and shouts mingled with the sharp crack of gunfire. Raymond stumbled inside, vision locking onto the furious scene that unfolded before him. The dim fluorescent lights flickered above, casting long shadows that danced ominously across a floor now slick with tension. "Where do we go?" Rachel hissed, her breath coming in quick, terrified gasps. "Stick close," Raymond shouted, forcing himself to think through the chaos. They needed to find the device Crane wanted. It was the key to everything. Gunshots erupted, echoing like thunder, followed by panicked screams. Somewhere beneath the frantic melee, he noticed Crane's men scrambling for weapons while the new arrivals, the dark-clad team, systematically swarmed the interior. Each second felt like an eternity as bullets whizzed by, ricocheting off steel beams and crates. "Over there." Raymond pointed toward a door marked with red letters, "Restricted Access." No sign of Crane's coveted hard drive, but opportunity surged. They had to risk it. Maybe they could catch him off guard and snatch the device. Ducking low, they dashed over the uneven concrete, narrowly avoiding a spray of gunfire that sent shards of debris scattering across their path. With every step, the adrenaline surged through Raymond's veins, igniting a fierce determination deep within. "This way." Rachel tugged his arm toward a broken section of wall framing a narrow corridor. It led deeper into the heart of the warehouse. A mixed chorus of danger surged behind them, the sound of shouting men, the heavy thud of boots, chaos unfolding. As they skittered along the edge of the corridor, Raymond felt a sharp jolt of regret. Was he really dragging Rachel into this madness? Should they even be here, risking everything for answers? "Raymond." Rachel's urgent whisper cut through his thoughts. She pointed ahead, eyes wide with shock. There, illuminated by the dim overhead lights, was a sleek silver hard drive perched precariously on a rusted steel table. "This is it." He bolted towards it, fingers trembling with anticipation. Just as he reached out, another gunshot ricocheted off the table, splintering the air. "Get down." Rachel barely dove to the floor as more shots rang out, close enough that Raymond felt the rush of air as they whizzed past. "Damn it!" he cursed, heart racing. "We can't just sit here, we have to." Before he could finish, Rachel's eyes narrowed with focus, her determination igniting as she snatched a nearby metal pipe. "I'll distract them." "Are you insane?" Raymond gasped, panic rushing in as he grasped at her sleeve. "Trust me." She pushed him toward the hard drive and darted into the hallway, brandishing the pipe like a skilled warrior. "Hey, you!" she yelled, voice rising above the chaos. "Over here." Raymond nearly shouted out in protest, but then he saw the way her boldness captured attention. The incoming guards turned, eyes wide, intent shifting from their search for the source of trouble. "You're taking a big risk, Rachel," he yelled, already starting to reach for the drive. But as his fingers grazed the sleek surface, horror filled him as he heard the sound of approaching footsteps. With a groan of frustration, he wrenched the hard drive from the table, stuffing it under his shirt just as the first of Crane's men rounded the corner, weapons drawn, snarling and furious. "Get her!" one shouted, racing after Rachel, who deftly swung the pipe to create the chaos around her, a makeshift hero in the storm of violence. Fear surged, a clawing creature within Raymond, ripping at his resolve. What if she got hurt? What if this all went sideways? He made a decision, dashed out of their hiding place, darting through the swirling flurry of fists and bullets, yelling Rachel's name. "Raymond, no." Her voice cut through the chaos. But he was past the point of fear. He needed to protect her. His body moved almost on instinct as he maneuvered toward the scuffle where 6 men grappled for control, their shouts mingling with the sounds of chaos thickening in the air. Suddenly, Rachel managed to break away, but not without a cost. One of the men lunged towards her, and Raymond's heart stopped as he watched her struggle against him. In one swift motion, Raymond reached the combatants, shoving one man aside before another turned and brought the handle of a gun down against his temple. The world spun violently before him. In that moment of darkness, one thought burned in him: it wasn't just survival anymore. It was about everything they had to protect together against foes and betrayals swirling ahead. But he was fading. Then came the sudden snap of clarity as a chilling voice sliced through the noise around him. Well, look who decided to play hero. It was Crane, smirking in that predatory way. He stepped forward, looming like a dark specter amidst the fracas. You should have stayed out of this, Raymond. As the darkness encroached, a single thought held tight in his mind: the game wasn't over yet. And the worst was yet to come. Raymond's vision blurred, edges fading into darkness. Voices echoed distantly, mixing with the pounding of his heart. He fought against the void pulling at him. Somehow, he had to stay awake, to stay present. Raymond. Rachel's voice cut through the haze, a beacon amidst the chaos. Suddenly, he felt strong hands grabbing him, Crane's men scuffling over him. The dull thud of a fist meeting flesh rang in his ears. He couldn't let them take him. He couldn't. With one last surge of energy, Raymond pushed back, breaking the surface of the encroaching night. He blinked rapidly, refocusing on the scene, a whirlwind of violence. Rachel was still in the fray, jabbing at one of Crane's goons with tremendous ferocity. Get back! She shouted, swinging the pipe again, connecting with a man's shoulder and sending him staggering. But moments later, two more closed in on her, weapons raised, faces gleaming with malicious intent. No! A surge of fear resonated deep within him. Each second was a lifetime, and he couldn't let her get caught. Raymond lurched forward, his legs shaky but fueled by adrenaline, and tackled the nearest attacker, bringing him crashing to the floor. The man growled, struggling to reclaim control, but Raymond fought with a wild desperation, clenching at the collar of his shirt, squeezing until he felt the fabric stretch and tear beneath his grip. You want a showdown? Crane chuckled, his voice dripping with sinister delight. He stepped gingerly around the chaos, his eyes alight with cruel amusement. You'll regret this decision, Raymond. The tone was unmistakable, a promise of violence tinged with sadistic pleasure. Just as Crane advanced on him, Rachel came barreling in from the side, her pipe lifting with unerring precision to crack against the side of Crane's head. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Raymond felt a pang of disbelief mixed with exhilaration. Rachel had struck him. She didn't back down, not even from the devil himself. But Crane recovered quickly, grasping his throbbing temple, eyes wild with fury. You little. In a flash, he retaliated, lunging at Rachel. Raymond reacted instinctively, throwing himself in front of her like a wall. Pain erupted across his ribs as Crane collided with him, sending them both sprawling into the mess of debris. Rolling away, Raymond struggled to catch his breath, each inhalation a razor cutting into his chest. Rachel, behind you! He gasped, but it was too late. Two thugs had cornered her. Just then, the roar of sirens filled the air, a sound Raymond didn't expect but welcomed. Reinforcements? But how? Sensing the tide changed, Crane's men hesitated, glancing toward the exit. Raymond seized the moment. Run, Rachel! Now! He pushed to his feet, ready to fend off whoever decided to charge. A shadow intercepted him first. A glint of steel shone under the flickering light. One of the thugs lunged, knife aimed, but Raymond sidestepped, adrenaline sharp. He grabbed a piece of broken wood and swung, striking the man's wrist. The knife clattered to the ground. There! Rachel shouted, pointing to the open doorway. We can get out. Go, go! Desperation flared within him as he spotted Crane regrouping, fury etched in every line of his face. It felt like a storm was brewing, a maelstrom of violence threatening to capture them in its grasp. Rachel, this way! Together, they dashed toward the exit, feet pounding against the concrete, oblivious to the chaos trailing behind them. The sirens grew louder. Was help truly coming? But then, a searing pain shot through his side, kaboom, as it reverberated through him. Raymond staggered, instinctively clutching his injury. He glanced behind, panic spreading as he saw Crane, eyes blazing with vengeance. "Stop them!" he roared, eyes fixed on their escaping figures. Rachel's voice trembled as she grabbed his arm. "We can't stop, Raymond. We have to go." With every ounce of willpower, he forced his feet to move, pushing through the agony. As they barreled through the door, the outside world burst before them, a shimmer of neon lights and the shadows of deserted streets, but safety lingered just beyond their grasp. Suddenly, a figure stepped into their path, an ominous silhouette against the glow. "Where do you think you're going?" The voice was chillingly familiar. Raymond's heart dropped. He recognized her instantly, dread pooling in his stomach. They weren't free yet. What are you doing here?" he stammered, trapped between fear and realization. The hard drive pulsed against his skin, a reminder of the stakes involved. Crane had the upper hand, and she was his silent specter. "Playing my part, just like you," she said, smirking, eyes fierce. The game was spiraling deeper into shadows. Let us see how this unfolds. As the adrenaline faded, the reality crashed in hard on Raymond. He let out a shaky breath. The worst wasn't behind them, it was just the beginning. Raymond blinked, trying to process the confrontation unraveling before him. Her face was twisted by something between amusement and determination, playing with his mind. The woman in front of them wasn't just an obstacle, she was a pawn-turned-player, and he didn't know what moves she would make next. "Joanne," he muttered, incredulity flooding his voice. She had been a mere assistant, hovering in the background of Crane's world. Now, she stood between them and their escape. "What do you want?" "I'm just here to make this more interesting," she replied, a glint in her eye that sent shivers down his spine. "You didn't think Crane wouldn't have a backup plan, did you?" Rachel's grip on his arm tightened, and he could feel her fear lacing through his own rising panic. "We can't trust her, Raymond." "And you shouldn't," Joanne continued, stepping closer. The flickering streetlight caught the edge of a weapon hidden beneath her coat. "I've seen you both run around thinking you could outsmart Crane. Newsflash, you can't." The weight of her words settled like lead in Raymond's stomach. He could feel the bite of betrayal, clawing at him. A trap, it was all a trap. How had he not seen this? How had Rachel managed to? Crane's laughter echoed from somewhere behind them, a tortured melody of madness. "Ah, my little dark horse, Joanne. Can you feel the excitement in the air?" "What were you talking about?" Raymond shot back, feeling the tension crackling like static. "You're losing control." "Am I?" Crane's voice grew dangerously calm as he emerged into view, flanked by menacing shadows. "You see, the fun's just begun. My dear Joanne has a pivotal role in this little game we're playing. Right, darling?" Joanne's smirk widened as she brandished her knife. "Such a thrill, isn't it? Watching you squirm, knowing I've been more than just a puppet for a long time now." Raymond's heart raced. "Why are you doing this?" "Power," she hissed, eyes alive with maniacal fury. "I've tasted it. And I want more. You and Rachel are the keys to the vault." The realization struck him like a slap. She wanted the hard drive. It contained everything, the evidence he had risked his life for. In her eyes, he saw a fiery ambition that threatened to consume them all. "Joanne, you don't have to do this," Rachel said, her voice trembling but firm, stepping slightly between Raymond and Joanne. "We can work together. We can beat him." Joanne laughed, a harsh, chilling sound. "Oh, sweet Rachel, how innocent you are. Teamwork requires trust, and I trust no one." Crane stepped forward, almost gleeful, like a hunter closing in on his unsuspecting prey. "This is the real test, my dear. In one swift move, you can find yourselves on the winning side. Or well, the alternative is rather messy. Raymond squared his shoulders, adrenaline coursing through him. There had to be a way out. They just needed a distraction. Depending on Rachel's instinct, Raymond said, "Joanne, think about this. You could turn against him. There would be power for both of us, not just you. You'd have a chance to be more than a footnote in Crane's story." Sudden clarity flashed across her face, hope flickering in the darkness, but it was gone before he could sense it taking root. She hesitated, fingers twitching nervously around the knife. Then, the sound of sirens pierced the air, drawing closer. Crane's expression twisted into something darker, realizing his grip was slipping. "No. You're not leaving. You're mine." Raymond shot a glance at Rachel, a shared understanding passing between them. "Now!" he yelled. In an instant, chaos erupted. Rachel lunged, her movements fueled by survival, and Raymond followed suit, propelled by the raw need to escape this nightmare. The three of them collapsed into a frenzy of limbs and shouts, bodies crashing against each other as they fought for control over the weapon and their fate. Crane's roar of fury filled the alley, drowning out the sirens, but the desperate hope of freedom surged in their chests. As they broke apart, breaths heavy between them, Joanne stood at a crossroads, torn between her vicious ambition and the fragile edge of alliance. I can help," she stammered, wavering. Raymond seized the moment, adrenaline still surging within. "Then do it, help us now. We can't let him get away." But just as they prepared to break for freedom, the shadows of Crane's remaining thugs closed in. It wasn't just a fight for survival anymore, it was a battle of loyalties. Would Joanne sink or swim? The sirens keened louder but felt unreachable, a bittersweet promise as the storm of chaos began to swirl once again. And then, in a fracturing moment, it happened. A gunshot rang out, piercing the air like a scream, but who had fired? Raymond's world spun with uncertainty as he turned, desperate to find the answer in the chaos that unfurled before them. Was this the end, or just the beginning? The smoke hung heavy in the air, thick with the smell of chaos and adrenaline as Raymond's heart thundered in his chest. The warehouse had transformed into a battlefield, shadows dancing erratically as bodies collided in a frenzied struggle. Breathing was a challenge, every gasping inhale felt like a desperate plea for survival. "Rachel, stay close," he shouted over the din, adrenaline pushing him past the pain that lanced through his side. He couldn't let anything happen to her, not now when they were on this precipice of danger. In that moment, everything felt like a blur, but as he turned, his world jolted sharply into focus. Crane stood there, eyes ablaze with triumph, the malevolence radiating from him almost palpable. "Did you really think you could outrun your past, Raymond?" His voice boomed with mocking authority. "Shut up!" Raymond shouted back, squeezing the hard drive against his chest as though it were the key to safety itself. They had to escape, and fast. Behind him, Rachel wove skillfully, dodging attacks like a seasoned fighter. But he felt the weight of despair creeping back as Joanne hesitated, her grip wavering on her weapon. "Make the right choice, Joanne," he yelled, desperation spilling out in every word. "We need you. You can't trust him." With Crane's goons pushing closer and the sirens wailing ever nearer, it felt like their lives teetered on the edge of a razor. Joanne's eyes flickered, shadows of doubt battling against her ambition. I don't want to lose," she cried. "Then help us," Rachel shouted, charging forward to throw herself between Crane and Raymond, who was grappling with the very real threat of what Crane had unleashed. Suddenly, the crack of gunfire pierced the air, splintering the moment of hesitation. Everyone froze, fear wrapping around them like a suffocating cloak. What was that? Someone shouted, panic rising like a tidal wave, but before anyone could process the chaos, the sound of boots thundered toward them. It was the police, responding to the echoes of violence, swirling in like a flock of hawks descended on their prey. Chaos erupted anew as Crane's men scrambled to escape, realizing their fate was sealed by the very forces they thought they'd ensnared. "We have to go," Raymond yelled, eyes locking with Rachel's. Time was slipping through their fingers like sand. In the midst of the tumult, Joanne's resolve solidified. She dropped her knife and headed toward them, eyes filled with determination. "I'll help you. I want to let him win." With the dust of uncertainty swirling around them, Raymond felt hope ignite once more. The sirens were inches away, their escape hinged on the thin thread of action. "Let us go," he urged, leading Rachel and Joanne to the back exit. The alley beckoned, their only path to freedom. Just at that moment, Crane unleashed a fierce yell, rallying his men for one last stand. "You think you can run? You'll regret this." But it was too late. The weight of the law loomed larger than him, bursting into the cool night air. They sprinted with all the strength they had left. The concrete beneath their feet vibrated with an urgency of survival. Their hearts raced in unison, lungs burning with the intensity of their escape. "Over here." Raymond pointed toward a gap in a line of cars parked along the street. They ducked behind them, panting heavily as they pressed against the cold metal. "We can't just disappear," Rachel gasped, examining the street for signs of pursuing shadows. "We'll find a way," Raymond reassured her, his voice hoarse. As cops began to converge on the warehouse, the sounds of order and chaos filled the air, mixed with shouts and confusion. Crane's venomous threats dwindled, drowned out by the sirens that punctuated the grim landscape. Rachel turned to Joanne, urgency flickering in her eyes. "We need to sort this out. The document you need to help us understand what we have." There was urgency in her voice, yet the storm of doubt clouded Joanne's features. I can," Joanne began, hesitating as the weight of her choices sliced deeply into their fraying alliance. "But you need to trust me. I'll work to protect you." Suddenly a shout came from the direction of the warehouse. It sent a jolt through all of them. "They're coming." Rachel's voice quivered, fear creeping back into the edges of their resolve, but Raymond took a steadying breath. "We want to let Crane win. Not now. We've made it through this hell together." They exchanged one last glance, three determined fighters united by the scars of their past. Then, from the shadows, the path ahead glimmered with opportunity and danger. "Let us move," he called, feeling the adrenaline surge anew. A chance for freedom pulsed in their veins, a second chance against destiny. In that moment, everything felt possible. The air crackled with raw energy, a new dawn heralding the promise of survival. Crowds bustled around them, a chaotic energy shifting, but together they would forge a future of resilience. As they darted into the night, the weight of the world slowly shifting off their shoulders, Raymond realized that sometimes the greatest battles come down to the bonds people forge through shared adversity, and sometimes, the path forward is discovered in the heart of the storm, and no matter what awaited them, they would face it together. Now, don't forget, if you want to keep up with the thrilling twists and turns of stories just like this, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Show your support and flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this explosive conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends you know who need to see this ending. Your engagement means everything to us, and we can't thank you enough for being with us on this wild ride.